The Tenderloin has long been viewed as San Francisco's armpit. Drug dealing and drunks, prostitution, the homeless and mentally ill, troubled veterans and impoverished new immigrants, right next door to the city's thriving downtown. Today, about 28,000 people live in the 40-square-block area. Judy Young, executive director of the Vietnamese Youth Development Center, moved here from an Asian refugee camp in 1981.
I was 8 years old, and we lived in this crappy one-bedroom, I think it was haunted apartment. And there was like 6 of us to a one-bedroom. And the neighborhood was the worst you could ever find.
More than 30 years later, the downtrodden still line up for free meals at St. Anthony's Dining Hall in the heart of the Tenderloin. They serve 2,500 meals a day. St. Anthony's executive director, Barry Stenger, says the neighborhood has changed, though only subtly.
The Tenderloin is changing in the sense that we're seeing people now who are living their lives here, too, because of the work that housing advocates have done over the years.
One of those advocates is Randy Shaw, longtime director of the Tenderloin Housing Clinic, one of many neighborhood nonprofits that own or operate housing.
Buildings are in better condition than ever before, but I don't know that someone who hasn't been here in 10 years would notice a dramatic change.
I've spent most of my life in and around San Francisco, and for all the changes that I've seen, the Tenderloin district has remained pretty much the same. While most cities have been quick to redevelop blighted areas near their downtowns, the Tenderloin has so far resisted. That's the view of San Francisco Magazine editor Gary Camilla. In his recent book, Cool Gray City of Love, he blames progressive forces and nonprofits for impeding progress and creating a museum of depravity in the Tenderloin.
San Francisco is very left-leaning. The nonprofits have a very strong political base in the city. To simply take an undesirable population and go warehouse them somewhere is, it's extremely problematic. So that there's kind of there's an understandable reason to not want to make a dramatic change in the Tenderloin.
In the middle of our interview, we were interrupted by one resident.
Why do you live in the Tenderloin?
Why do I live in the Tenderloin? Yeah. Because we're flushed into the areas. This is where we have to survive to the best that we can. Why should we have to be sitting here going through the things that we don't want to do? We're going to jail for things that we don't even want to do.
Gary Camilla blames the nonprofits who are providing services to residents like the man who goes by Dirty Red.
What the nonprofits want to do is maintain their stake here. This is where they have their structures. They own or lease dozens of buildings and thousands of people are housed and supported here. They're being part of the solution, but ironically, they're also part of the problem. The city is very loath to step in and say, let's sweep this all away. Let's move it somewhere else.
What about the nonprofits? Do they have a stake and they want to keep things the way they are?
No, that's absolutely false. I mean, nobody has spent more time than me trying to reduce crime in the Tenderloin. I had a large nonprofit. I led an anti-crime march to the Tenderloin with Dianne Feinstein in 1985. It's a long time we've been fighting it. The problem has been that the police allow activities to go on in the Tenderloin they don't allow in other neighborhoods.
We gotta clear off the sidewalks, guys, come on.
For their part, the police say they devote plenty of resources to the Tenderloin, with frequent street patrols and a special unit housed in the neighborhood. But according to Captain Jason Chernus, the basic problems here are not law enforcement issues.
Public safety doesn't belong to the police. Public safety belongs to cooperation between the police and the community. And when people get to kind of realize that, then we see success. If the environment is comfortable for drug dealers and drug trafficking, removing that drug dealer is only going to take that one drug dealer off the street, but the environment still stands.
As for why not more arrests?
If you're not used to seeing people who are mentally ill, who don't smell good, who are incontinent, who talk to themselves, those are things that could scare you, yes. But we don't criminalize homelessness in San Francisco. And that is different from other places in California and in the United States. And some people find that shocking.
But not all Tenderloin residents are homeless or mentally ill. The area is home to immigrants from Southeast Asia and Latin America looking for cheaper housing until they can get on their feet. At least 2,000 children live here, like Judy Young used to.
Families do live here because it is one of the most affordable places in the city. And people don't realize how high the housing is in San Francisco. And so if you can find a studio or one bedroom here now for $1,200, that's pretty affordable compared to other places.
With tech companies like Twitter opening up shop in the nearby mid-market corridor, the question remains, will gentrification price out those who need the Tenderloin's low rents? Randy Shaw says that can't happen.
The Tenderloin has been, for the last really almost 100 years, a working class neighborhood, and now it's become San Francisco's last working class neighborhood and the last it'll ever have, because it's the one neighborhood in San Francisco that cannot be gentrified for a number of reasons: land use protections, zoning protections, rent controls, and a unique housing stock which has no single family homes. Or actually, there's one single family home in the Tenderloin, has a very small number, less than 5 flats, so the gentry who like to own do not have ownership opportunities in the Tenderloin.
Staples of that unique housing stock are 100 single-room occupancy hotels, SROs. Their status is protected by city laws that make it impossible to tear them down and replace them with upscale apartments, as is happening in the Mission District. Change, of course, will come to San Francisco. It is happening now, and the city will try to improve life in the Tenderloin. But the betting is this neighborhood will remain unique, fascinating, and a seamy, sometimes unsafe refuge for the poor.